Hey everyone, welcome to Theory Discussions, where I will talk about theories new and old. I will explain the theory, then kind of let you guys know my thoughts on it personally, and I'll even rate the theory. Now, it wasn't hard for me to figure out the first theory I was going to talk about for this series. This theory in particular is actually pretty close to me. It was one of the first, if not the first theory I ever found out about. Needless to say, this is a pretty old one. This theory suggests that Simba and Nala had a cub before Kiara. Now, first off, I want to say that this theory didn't just pop up out of nowhere. There's actually a legitimate reason for this theory coming to be. There is actually a book series about a little male lion cub named Kopa, who is the son of Simba and Nala. In this book series, it just shows Kopa having these adventures. His family tells him stories of Scar and things like that. Some of the books in the series are actually pretty interesting. So that is pretty much how Kopa was born. Now, when thinking of this theory, the first thing that comes to mind is if he's older than Kiara, why isn't he in Lion King 2 Simba's Pride? Now, this is where things get a little tricky because a lot of people have their own explanations of why Kopa is not in the sequel to Lion King, and why he's not even mentioned. Some say Zira actually killed Kopa after he befriended her daughter Phtolemy. And at first, I really liked that thought. That made much more sense to me of why Simba would just really outright hate her and the other outsiders. But looking back on it now, Simba already had plenty reason to hate her, considering she was a follower of Scar, same with the rest of the outsiders. And thinking of it, I think Simba would have kicked them out of the Pride Lands before Kopa was even born. But on the other hand, Kopa being killed does account for some of Simba's actions. I mean, it's perfectly normal for a father to be overprotective of his children, especially his daughter, but the fact that he doesn't even want Kiara to leave Pride Rock is kind of strange to me. But then again, seeing Nala, if her firstborn was killed, you think she would be protective as well, if not even worse than Simba. But she's the exact opposite. She's just like, go Kiara, go have fun, whatever. So as you can see, there are a lot of factors at play here. And though Kopa clears up some questions from the sequel and fixes some little plot holes, he also adds plot holes himself. I mean, even if he was killed at some point, even if it wasn't Zira, you think it would have been mentioned that Kiara had an older brother at some point. Some people like to speculate that Kopa left and started his own Pride of Lions, which, yeah, in real life, there's pretty much one male of the Pride, and any other males go off when they're old enough, or try to overthrow the other male lion to take over the Pride. So if something like that happened and Kopa maybe tried to overthrow Simba, I mean, I guess that would make sense why Simba doesn't talk about him, because it's like kind of disowned him in a way after such an incident. But I don't think Kopa would have been old enough at that point. I'd like to think Copa wasn't much older than Kiara. So he'd be too young to go off on his own and start his own pride or try to overthrow Simba. And that's really just based on Simba and Nala, because I think they would be a lot older looking if Copa was already like a teenager or an adult by the time Kiara was born. But there is one thing that I kind of don't like about the ending of Lion King. Don't get me wrong, I love the movie to death, but at the end of the movie, the very last scene is Rafiki holding up Simba and Nala's first child at a ceremony just like Simba's. In this scene, we get a good look at the cub and a good look at the scenery. And it's a lot like Simba's own ceremony, which is an awesome ending until you watch the sequel, where we see what is supposed to be the same ceremony for the same cub. But as we can see, Kiara's ceremony clearly takes place at an earlier time of day. Simba's and this cub's were both where the sun was a lot brighter, a lot higher in the sky. Kiara's ceremony was more at dawn. Not only that, looking at the two cubs, you can clearly see differences. Kiara is, well, Kiara, but the other cub really looks nothing like her and looks more like Simba. Now, what this really was like poor planning for the movie creators. And for the sequel, they really didn't think about the ending for the first movie. Otherwise, I think they would have made Kiara's ceremony look more like the one from the ending. As for why the cubs look different, again, when they ended the first movie, they didn't plan on there being a sequel. And when they did start to make the sequel, they ended up deciding they wanted Simba and Nala's cub to be a female. And even though, as I said, there is a book series that has Copa in it, and technically he is a real thing, the director of A Lion King 2 actually flat out came out and said that he had no knowledge of these books before he started making the movie. So, I mean, with that, this theory was pretty much debunked. And now there is actually a series on Disney Channel about the Lion King, and it is about a son that Simba and Nala have. This cub is Keon. And I will say the series is pretty cute, pretty interesting, but there are so many questions that it actually raises and brings to the sequel and the first movie, such as, where was the Lion Guard before? We have literally never heard of it before. And Keon himself. Now, he's supposed to be a little younger than Kiara, but not by much at all. Again, this is simply the series coming after the movies and them not thinking of all this during the time of the movies. I do give them an A for effort, though, for trying to give Scar a backstory. Anyway, I'm giving this theory of Simba and Nala's lost cub 4 Mickeys. I really like this theory, and it does add a lot more weight to the events that take place in the sequel. But evidence supporting it has pretty much been debunked and, proven to be just things not taken into consideration, or just things that they didn't think about. But what do you guys think of this theory? I know it's pretty old, and I know I should have said this at the beginning of the video, But because this isn't my original theory, I do want to give credit to the creators of this theory. But I wasn't quite sure how to go about it, considering this theory is pretty old and a lot of people have made videos on it, speculating and just putting their own spins on the theory. But just for future theory discussions, let me know if I should leave links to the videos I watched to get information on these theories and where I found the theories, even though those might not be the actual creators of the theory. I'm just not so sure how to go about all that, because this is a new series that I'm doing, and I'm still kind of figuring out the best way to go about all that. But anyway, I hope you guys enjoyed. Thanks for watching, and see you guys next time.